welcome to Dead and Kind of Famous, where we dig into the life stories of dead folks who enjoyed a touch or two of fame in their time.
And now reside permanently in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
I'm Marissa Rivera, and I know nothing, but I do know that after spending a couple weeks in New York, which is where I'm recording from right now, I don't think I could ever live here on a permanent basis.
Too loud?
For a little bit at a time.
Is it too loud? Is that what it is?
It's so much. It's so much people, so much noise, so much. I feel like my neurospicy is just tingling all the time. And I tried to get home from Brooklyn on the train last night, and it was like a fiasco. It took so long. There were so many, like, it said a train was coming and a train never showed up, that kind of thing. And it just was like an extra 45 minutes. And then I ended up having to like walk from Times Square back to my place. And no one wants to walk from Times Square at 1 a.m.
Nope.
But, so I do know that. That's what I know.
Okay. Yeah. I also remember when my first school was in Staten Island, and there were times that I got on the wrong train to get back to the ferry when you have to get that train because it's like you'll miss the ferry and then you'll have to spend the night there. And I did. I had to spend the night in the ferry terminal multiple times. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
No, it's not okay. That's not okay.
Yep.
That's not a life I want to live.
Yep. It's rough. It's rough out there. So I'm Courtney Blomquist, and I know way too much about what we're going to talk about today anyway, but I don't know like how I'm functioning. I stayed up way too late last night, and I got
an email at 4:30 this morning.
Well, your time. There is a time difference.
1:30 your time, but still.
2:30 wait, no, you're right. 1:30 my time. Yeah. It was a late night. And then I like woke up and snapped at Jesse, and he's like, why are you basically like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm sleep deprived. And he's like, why won't you chill? And it's because we want to bring this podcast to you guys. So that's what's
right.
going on.
There is no chill.
There is no chill. There's no chill. All right. So today's episode is diving into many areas of the arts, specifically theater, music, and visual art. How apropos for you being in New York City.
I know. It's a perfect episode for me.
It is. And it's all about just one man. And his name was David Xavier Harrigan. Have you ever heard of David Xavier Harrigan, Marissa?
No.
Okay. Well, let's look at this right now.
I don't think I have.
Okay. I don't think you have either, at least as it stands right now. So this is the headstone. It is in a really strange room within Hollywood Forever. It's actually called the Chapel Colonnade. It's on the first floor on the north wall. And this place, I did like kind of the virtual walk around it. We haven't walked in there yet. Or at least I haven't with you.
No.
So anyway, it's like a little
kind of weird and like creepy.
Yeah.
And
tell us about it. What do you see?
Okay. So it's like a black box, and on top it's what is it called? Where the gold the
plate, the nameplate,
the gold plate. I think it's supposed to be gold, but because of what's around it, it's reflected red.
Uh-huh.
And at first I was like, why is there a credit card?
It does kind of look like that.
This headstone. Or what? It's not a headstone. What is this one called?
I don't know what this is. It's like, it looks like a shadow box. Here, I'm going to switch. This is what it looks like as a whole.
Oh, yeah. It's totally a shadow box.
It's kind of this little box of ashes with photos around it and like little
Did he die in the 80s or early 90s? Because I really feel that's when shadow boxes really had their time.
No, but of that era as a life.
Okay. Making sense.
Yeah. So
there's a weird plate that looks red. Mm-hmm. There's some illustrations and stickers all around it.
Yeah. It's like if Iris was like, "Let me make your grave, Mom."
Yeah,
Like that's what
exactly.
it
It
That's
looks
so
like a bunch
creepy.
of kids are like, let me color all peepaws."
I don't know what this is called.
Not
I really don't know what
headstone
this
art.
is called. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I
Um,
mean, is that a place for his ashes, I'm assuming?
yes, exactly. So it's like an
Okay.
urn. It's like a
So urn.
box-shaped
It's like a
urn.
square urn. It's a boxed
Yes,
urn.
right. And then we can see it's hard to read, but that his birth date is May 28th, 1948, and his death was in 2000, August 31st. Okay, and
So
then
52 years old,
yes,
if you
exactly.
can do the math, which I couldn't, so I brought up my calculator on
I
my
know, I was
phone.
impressed. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Don't be
So,
too impressed. I don't do math in my head, and I'm so sleepy.
I know, me too.
Um,
All right, so now tell us now that you've seen all of this, tell us the obituary of David Xavier Harrigan.
well, David Xavier Harrigan was born in Jackson, Mississippi.
Of course he's Southern. Of course he is. Go ahead.
I know it just came out of me. Born in Jackson, Mississippi. And he always thought that he would do what his pawpaw did before him and his peepaw did before him. Which was work at the local 5 and dime and the grocery store in town. But he started falling in love with the TV. Because every night the family would gather around the TV and watch the shows together.
Yeah, I'll just stop you. You're wrong about everything. I'll just stop you right now.
Wait, I think he had a family. I think he had a family, and that his family, he had some young, either grandkids or nieces and nephews, who drew on his grave, and I think he was a visual artist and perhaps did some art design here in Hollywood.
Okay.
Maybe some set design, art design. He's in the art department.
Well, so you're right about the fact that he did do a combination of arts in his life for sure.
Cool.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I kind of set you up to fail on this because you actually do have an idea of who this is. You do. So
I do.
you do. He is he's a returning character basically from our last episode. So
What?
yeah, so the hero of today's story was born David Xavier Harrigan, but the name he used throughout his adult life was Tomato DePlenty. And I pronounced it wrong last time. It's Tomato, not Tomata DePlenty.
Tomato DePlenty. The
It's
punk
Tomato
rocker.
It's the punk rocker, yes.
Oh my
Th-
gosh.
I
No
know.
wonder his grave looks pretty punk.
It does. He was very, very, very punk through all his things. And yes, so.
Oh man, he only made it to 52.
Yeah.
That's
So
sad.
I know. So if you'll recall, this was the very same Tomato DePlenty that befriended Vampira in the 1980s and really looked out for her. He is the mensch from the last episode, basically. So if Vampira was a counterculture goddess, then Tomato was a counterculture queen at times, making a notable mark in subversive theater, early punk rock, though he has no studio recordings to show for it, and we will talk about that, and folk art. He's so fascinating and talented, and I can't wait to tell you about him.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So Tomato was a childhood nickname, so he didn't even come up with that part himself.
What?
He had Yeah,
How
because he had two.
how do you come up with that nickname?
Well, I know it's kind of a leap even for the nickname because the way it came to be, the only thing I've heard is that he had two sisters named Iris, like my daughter, and Daisy. And I guess his parents wanted another plant related name for a boy, but like Cypress wasn't an acceptable option to put on a birth certificate yet. And it
So
is now
Tomato?
Tomato. They were like, well, you're going to be Tomato.
That's so
And
funny.
yeah, so everybody called him Tomato. So his family went in the goofy nickname direction, instead of making his real name, which is probably smart. And the DuPlenty was his own addition, simply meaning do plenty, because it's spelled DU space PLENTY. But he meant like DOPLENTY, like I do plenty. And if there's one thing and one thing only to say about Tomato, he did in fact do plenty in his life, as we will find out.
Hell yeah.
So yeah. And also very very on point, Marissa. He was born right in the area you are right now, pretty much.
New York, New York.
Yes. Tomato was born in Broad Channel, Queens on May 28th, 1948 to an Irish Catholic family.
All right.
And if you've never heard of Broad Channel, it is essentially the southernmost portion of Queens that is largely looked over and unheard of within the city of New York.
I was like, I've never heard of it. Go on.
Nobody has. It lies between JFK Airport and Rockaway Beach, like right in between those two things. It's like if Queens kind of like dribbles out into this like little nothing where there's like a highway running through and not much land, and like that's kind of what it is. It's a funny little image if you look at it on a map. Is definitely on the fringes of the city, just like DePlenty ended up being on the fringes of every one of his pursuits while still being assuredly on the map when it comes to influence.
The fringes of society.
Yes. So when he was 10 years old, his family moved to Montebello, California, just about 15 miles outside of LA. So he went one coast to the other as a child. And with the hippie scene calling to him as a teen, young Tomata stood on the street, stuck his thumb in the air, and hitchhiked his way to Los Angeles and then later San Francisco.
At 10 years old?
No. Once he was a teen.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
I'm skipping ahead.
I missed that. Oh my god.
No. I'm glad you clarified.
Like,
No.
Where's your child? Oh
there's no evidence really that like he had like a troubled family home or anything like that. I don't know about that. So I think he just was like itching. He's like, I gotta get out. But when he was like 16.
Okay. So he hitchhiked his way.
He hitchhiked his way to Los Angeles, which was like not that far away, probably the safer place to hitchhike in a way because he was closer to home.
Right.
And then spent a few years there, which are probably, I don't know what those years were, to be honest. And then found his way to San Francisco a couple years in. So
to find his people.
Yeah, to find his people. And he, like I said, he hasn't talked much about his early childhood family stuff, but or his childhood identity with queerness. But he was 100% a queer kid, and it would stand to reason that for him especially, he needed to search for a place where he belonged.
Well, San Francisco
exactly
is the queerest place around.
It's true. Yeah, and so it's no surprise he found
haven, and we love you for it.
Exactly, it is the gay mecca of America. So he, of course, would find his people there, and this was the first in a series of times in his life that Tomata moved somewhere and landed squarely where he needed to be at a pivotal moment.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So upon
timing worked out in his favor a lot.
Often. Yes.
Wow.
So
what a very different experience.
Oh, I know.
Our last girl.
Oh, for sure.
Vampira.
There's some, I don't know. These are interesting stories. They're offbeat stories of making a mark. I'll say that.
Where's your research from?
Oh, good point. Yeah. My research is there's no book that I read. There's a couple articles. I have his final interview, which was done for NWR magazine. The last interview was by Jack Rabid, I want to say. Yep. Jack Rabid. And then the other one was called You Better Shut Up and Listen by David Jones. And then there are multiple other sources, and we will list them. So where were we?
Upon arriving in San Francisco in
Yes.
1968, he
Okay.
quickly befriended George Harris.
Yes. So he befriended George Harris. Let's talk about George Harris for a second. Do you know the famous image of the hippie putting a flower into a gun at a protest? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah. So
he took that photo.
Well, he was in that photo. So that hippie was George Harris when he was protesting the Vietnam War.
Girl.
No, it's a guy. Here, I'll show it to you. Hold on. I've got I'll share my screen. Yeah, it's a very famous image. So this is like the little Wikipedia about it, but you can see the image there. So that guy right there putting that flower into the pistol, that is George Harris. So he's already like made a mark before he did anything, to be honest, of note, really, on a personal level, which is crazy. So anyway, George, at the point that he met Tomata, when their paths crossed, he had changed his name to Hibiscus. And so fabulous.
And I'm very much in par with the plant named theme.
Exactly. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. So he was part of a commune called Cauliflower, spelled with a K, that was dedicated to distributing food and to creating free art and theater. So this is like, at the time, there were a bunch of communes in San Francisco that were all like kind of functioning actually as an ecosystem.
So this was in like the 50s or early 60s?
This was in the late 60s.
Late 60s. Okay.
So there was basically like a commune where people would focus on fixing people's cars for free. There was a commune where people focused on giving food for free. There was, all these different like little ecosystems, so that because they were trying to get outside of the world of money actually. And they were like moderately, you could say, successful at that. Because they were truly created like a little ecosystem of communes. And I think there's part of me that like fantasizes about such a thing where you could join a commune and it's not a cult,
Right.
So,
but the two very, very rarely do not intertwine.
Exactly. So this is one of those instances where that did not really happen. Okay. But out of this commune...
Wait, that they weren't intertwined, or that they were? It was a cult as well, or
it was not a cult. It was not a cult. It was a community.
The dream.
So that's what I'm saying. It was a dream.
Community.
Yes. So out of this little adorable commune ecosystem, the Cockettes were born, and that's Cockettes. The Cockettes.
The Cockettes.
That's right, like the Rockettes, but the Cockettes. The Cockettes have been described as a psychedelic gender fuck troupe. Probably say a psychedelic gender fuck troupe is, I think, the way you would say that. And they have been said to influence drag and glam rock in major ways. So if you love David Bowie and Rocky Horror Picture Show, just know that this group planted a lot of the seeds that sprouted all of that.
Again, the plants.
Yes, again, the plants. It's just a through line. It's a through line.
I love it.
John Waters was a fan and
watering plants.
Oh my God. Someone's cringing listening to this right now. Like, shut up about the plants. You've beaten this metaphor to death. It's not even a metaphor. It's just an observance.
It's a through line of an observance of words and names.
It's true.
And coincidence.
It's true. So John Waters was a fan and lovingly said,
"They were insane hippie drag queens. It was complete sexual anarchy, which is always a wonderful thing."
Perfect.
Was it?
I mean, pretty, like the tone, at least, okay. The sassiness. They often did shows that occurred ahead of offbeat movie screenings at the Palace Theater in San Francisco.
Because they were like, these are our people anyway, so let's give them a pre-show.
Yeah, and it would also make sense that that's why they influenced Rocky Horror because,
Yes.
that's the whole culture of Rocky Horror, like that
Yes.
everybody's dancing in the crowd and it's like part of it's just like a show before a show, show within a show, all of
What?
that. So,
Show while the
um,
show's going on, a show out, and then there's an
yeah,
after
life is a
show.
show, everyone's on drugs,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
And according to Waters, that's exactly what was happening. Like they were wild shows with people tripping on acid and having sex in the crowd, like it was
Oh my
truly anarchy.
God.
Yeah. So, and Tomata himself said,
They were like guys who dressed in drag from the waist up and they were naked from the waist down, and girls who dressed in just, it was a glitter theater group. Guys and girls who would just like try to confuse the public. They not only dressed in drag, they dressed as furniture. It was like great.
I love it.
Dressed as furniture.
Yes, it's
I
just
love
like
that.
I know.
Just go to a pre-show and be like a sexy lamp.
Yes, exactly. Like, ooh,
Shine my
I
light.
thought that was a prop. It was a person.
It's a
It's
person. And like I'm just like shining light on like two guys having sex in the crowd. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh.
You're already playing the part of the lamp. You're playing it so well.
I'm like, just imagine like a sexy gold Pixar lamp illuminating gay sex.
Ooh. Illuminating the gays.
Illuminating the gays.
So they performed shows with names like Gone with the Show.
Which piece of furniture would you be?
Oh, what piece of furniture would I be? I would be, oh my God. Well, I'm just stuck still in Vampire Land. I would have to be like a chaise lounge at this moment.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. And then first of all, we'd go as a group of friends, of girlfriends, and we'd all be a group. Right, a furniture, and we'd just be like, we'd randomly just like we'd walk in and then set the scene for like a living room, and then
yes, exactly.
1, 2, 3, and it's like living, and we'd snap into living room mode.
I feel like this reminds me of those like YouTube videos where people imitate animals as dancers. You know what I mean? There's like something, some through line here.
Yeah. But
also, we could
so
be
much dumber.
So much dumber, and we would be the most annoying people on Halloween if we were like, let's do a group costume as furniture, and we won't be able to fit through any doors. Yeah. And we'll be super annoying. I love it. I hope they did something like that. I bet.
Oh, me too. Me too. That's what I envisioning.
Yes. So they performed shows with names like Gone with the Showboat to Oklahoma. Which is incredible. Les Etoiles de Paris or something like that. And Hot Greeks. So a lot of
just so you know what you're coming for.
Yeah, a lot of
hot
gay
Greeks over here.
A lot of gay, a lot of musical, all gay. Lots of gay happening here. Divine himself even joined the troupe for a time. Divine himself.
Divine.
And the Divine. And performed a song called A Crab on Your Anus Means You're Loved while dressed.
Oh my God.
While dressed as a lobster.
Not even as a crab.
I can't get through this.
I love that.
I can't get through this sentence. Like every part of it is funny. I'm not even done. While dressed as a lobster in their Journey to the Center of Uranus show. Oh, it's so good. It's
oh my
perfect.
God, that's so stupid.
It's so stupid. And of course, John Waters was a fan of this. Like, of course. Like, first of all, Divine's involved, like all of this. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, though I'm not sure if Tomata and Divine ever performed together, they definitely knew each other. Tomata said,
I hitchhiked with Divine once on 8th Street. It was hilarious. He would not hitchhike, like put his finger out. He would jump in front of a car and pound like this. Bah, 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 like pounding on a table. on the hood. He did this. He pounded on the hood of this car, and this old lady's in the front of the car, and he's like, Tomata, get in, get in. I get in, and the woman would be terrified, and he was like, we're going to the top of the hill.
Just like probably in full drag, like just so like, and Divine was wonderful, but terrifying.
I love, first of all, that it's like hitchhiking to the top of the hill, like not wanting to walk to the top of the hill. I'm assuming 100%. In full drag.
I think this is just to scare her. Like, I don't feel like he's just like, I could walk, but also I feel like scaring somebody right now.
Yeah, scaring.
Yeah. Columnist Lillian Roxon said that the Cockettes were 15 years ahead of their time and that
every time you see too much glitter or a rhinestone out of place, you will know it's because of the Cockettes.
So as far as Tomata is concerned, his principal work with the Cockettes had been as Hazel the Maid in their film production of Trisha's Wedding in 1971, which was a take on then President Nixon's daughter's wedding. It was an early piece of gender-bending political satire where, you know, the character of Eartha Kitt, not the real Eartha Kitt, spikes a bowl of, to clarify, spikes a bowl of punch with LSD. And for the purposes of this episode, that's all you really need to know.
Okay.
From what I've understood, I will call out here.
A political wedding LSD punch.
Yes, and there's like it's like there's other political characters throughout it, right? Because it's like a lot of political satire stuff. This film, so I did not watch it. You kind of have to like search through some libraries of film archives and whatnot to find it, from what I understand. But because it's like basically considered a piece of like early queer cinema in a way.
Okay, and, satire cinema, cool,
right? And so, but it's I listened to an episode. This is another source, I guess I'll list for this show, kind of. They use similar sources as me anyway, but there's an episode of No Dogs in Space, which is, I don't know if you've ever listened to that show, Marissa, but it's it's Marcus Parks and Carolina Hidalgo from the Last Podcast
on the
Network.
Yeah.
Yep. And so they are doing about bands and whatever. So they did an episode that involved Tomata and talked about some of this stuff and said, and basically Carolina said that like she watched Trisha's Wedding and that it is pretty much unwatchable, but that it's like, you know, it's an early piece of queer cinema. And I think some people revere it just because it was, you know, it was like they're doing something different.
Right. And kind of the first of its kind.
Right. But probably not that easy to watch now. And there's a few things like that in here, honestly. Out of this Hazel the Maid performance in Trisha's Wedding, Tomata decided to head out on his own and start his own gender-bending theater group called Ze Whiz Kidz.
Ze Whiz Kidz.
Ze Whiz Kidz. But this time
Z-E space W-H-I-Z space K-I-D-Z. Ze Whiz Kidz.
Ze Whiz Kidz. But this time he decided to put his thumb in the air again and head to a new city. And that city was Seattle. So much like the Cockettes, Ze Whiz Kidz wrote and performed a prolific amount of shows and mini musicals with a rotating cast of characters with wild stage names like Gorilla Rose, Satin Sheets, Rio de Janeiro, and Melba Toast.
That sounds like so much fun.
I know, it does. And so originally, Ze Whiz Kidz performed like buskers in Seattle. They did shows on the street, at bus stops, in a grocery store, and at a lesbian dive bar.
Hell yeah.
And there was like a rumor with this lesbian dive bar. I couldn't verify this enough from the source to even say it really, but it's like that there's a rumor that at that lesbian dive bar, you could like go up and purchase a Tommy gun, which is crazy. I was like, what? I'm like, that can't be real. So
what?
Yeah, they're like an old, I don't know, an old Tommy gun. You could, if you said the right thing, you could get one. I'm like, that sounds insane. So, but all of this sounds insane. So who knows?
Yeah.
So they were not on the radar of any critics or reviewers at the time. Writer Larry Reed looks back on them with reverence, saying,
"What were the shows like? loud, campy, joyous, with the audience sometimes joining the kids on stage. We would call it performance art today. There was no template to it.
So
Cool.
that's a pretty good explanation.
That's a really cool review / explanation.
And then, so just to show you like how big they did kind of get, even without being on the radar of critics and everything, they found their way to performing at the Eagles Auditorium in 1970, and from there gained popularity and a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest feathers in their cap was opening for Alice Cooper in 1971.
Wow.
Right? Like, that's pretty
What?
huge. At Seattle's Paramount Theater in a 1950s themed show called Puttin' Out is Dreamsville, which featured a song called Rock Around the Cock. So I feel like Ze Whiz Kidz was really just like taking the legacy of the Cockettes and being like, San Francisco did it right. Let's move it to another city.
Yeah, let's make funny songs and change lyrics to like,
it's like
sexualize everything, and
it's like being a gay evangelist. Like, let's take this church and bring it to another city.
Oh, so, I love it.
Yeah,
missionary. This is the kind of mission I can get on board with.
Right. In 1973, Tomato DePlenty got restless and moved again. This time he headed back to the city that birthed him, NYC, taking former Cockette Fayette Hauser with him. He performed Yep. He performed offbeat comedy at, of all places, CBGB's, the punk club, but he was performing offbeat comedy there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like
he's like a punk comedian.
That's very punk.
Yeah. So this often involved DuPlenty performing songs like I Enjoy Being a Girl for comedic effect. You know that song?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when I have a brand new hairdo with my eyelashes all in curls. Like that song. I float on the clouds. Yeah, exactly. Good. Why do I know all the words to the song that I do? So
she's a musical theater.
Yeah, it's in my blood. Many places or many pieces written about Tomata have said that he opened for then unknown bands like the Ramones and Blondie this way.
Wow.
But according to him, that was not the case.
Okay. He was like, let me set the record straight.
Yeah. So this is a little snippet of his final interview that he did with Jack Rabid of NWR.
I used to do stand-up comedy at CBGB's.
You were like an opening act, like the unknown comic?
No. Oddly enough, no. The bands were the opening act. This was when CBGB owner Hilly Crystal was turning it over from a bluegrass club. CBGB originally started in 1973, the letters standing for, funny enough, country, bluegrass, and blues. Then a comedy club, and then he finally let, like, the Ramones, I think, were the first band I remember playing there.
So it's like they were just like, we think we're a comedy club at this particular moment in time, and the bands are secondary to your bullshit performance right now.
Wow.
Which is so weird. So weird as that may seem, Tomata formed lasting friendships with Blondie out of this experience, and some of the Ramones. So while in New York, he also did a gossip column called Hollywood Spit that would eventually end up on public access TV. And he also casually opened a vintage store with no actual name. He was like always doing
stuff all the time.
He was always doing stuff.
Doing and creating.
And such a restless spirit, like had to have his, always thinking about the next thing, whatever. So, but then it was time to boogie again, get out there. Because once again, Tomato was getting restless.
Mm-hmm.
So he went back to Seattle and started a band this time, something new, not a comedy troupe, not a gender bender thing.
A band.
He started a band called the Tupperwares with ex-Whiz Kidz, Melba Toast, and Rio de Janeiro. And they had some fun songs like I'm Going Steady with Twiggy and Ava Braun, who's like, that's like the reference to Hitler's girlfriend.
Right. And by the way,
So-
those are two separate songs. It's not I'm Going Steady with Twiggy and Ava Braun.
Though somebody should
One song is I'm Going Steady with Twiggy, and another is Ava Braun.
Yes, two different songs. It's
Two different
Thank you for that
songs.
clarity. Oh, audio as a medium. We got to clarify.
We gotta
You can't see these
clarify.
quotes.
Yeah.
But this is a pretty abrupt switch from the theater and comedy route that he'd been taking so far. Jack Rabbit asked about it in his interview. How is it then? If you were doing comedy shows, things of that sort, how did you end up deciding that you wanted to do music?
As I said before, I've never had to make the decision.
You just fell into it.
Yeah, I fell into it. A really good friend of mine who did comedy in CBGB's, Gorilla Rose, he's now gone. He lived by this expression: let's do things. And that's how I live my life, by being active. Do things.
Do plenty.
Do
Again.
plenty. I love that.
Yeah. So he just was like action, not thought. That was like his, I would say, ethos.
Mm-hmm.
So the band also included a very young Eldon Hoke, who later, and I might be pronouncing this wrong, by the way, who later became the notorious El Duce of the Mentors, which is a band. And he's also the dude that is rumored to have been hired by Courtney Love to kill Kurt Cobain. This is like a whole...
Whoa.
Yeah, like there's a whole conspiracy theory around this guy, and then he like also was on a Jerry Springer episode and then got hit by a train right afterwards. That's how he died. Yeah, total
and died.
Yeah, but Tomato had only nice things to say about that guy, by the way. So I think it's all just conspiracy theory, like
right.
Blah. But anyway. The very first Tupperware's show was actually the premiere of the John Waters movie Pink Flamingos.
Stop it.
Yeah, so really good start as far as gigs go. Like again, he did it like just the way the Cockettes had done performance ahead of the screening.
Right.
So on May 1st, 1976, the Tupperwares joined the Mace and the Telepaths. That's a band, or Meice. I'm not sure how you say it. It's
Meyce.
Yeah.
Mace?
And the Yeah, Mace, maybe. The Mace, maybe. Yeah, that makes sense. And the Telepaths, which were other little bands in the area, to perform for the TMT show, which just stood for Tupperwares, Mace, and Telepaths.
Okay.
At Seattle's Oddfellows Hall. And the reason I even bring this up is because this show is like talked about a lot. It's enshrined as a foundational moment in the Seattle music scene.
Oh, cool.
It's regarded by many in the musical community within Seattle as the first time the city fully embraced the experimental and DIY movements within music that had previously been ignored. So basically, it was considered to be the beginning of punk rock in Seattle.
In Seattle, I feel like is the beginning of punk rock in this nation.
Yeah, and grunge for sure.
Yeah. Punk and grunge.
Punk and grunge. So it was just like that. Yeah, once Seattle could get their hands on a little bit of grit, they were like, "Ooh, we like it.
We like it.
The way it feels between our fingers." But Tomata didn't really consider it to be punk music. Of the Tupperwares, he said,
"The Tupperwares was just a little joke band I was in." The Tupperwares was just a little joke band I was in. They were like a bubblegum band. No big deal.
No big deal. Just a little thing.
Just a little
historic thing I did. But listening to the little bit of their set from that concert that there is to hear, I think he didn't give himself enough credit. So let's look into that.
Too humble.
So
he doesn't seem to have an ego.
He really doesn't.
I just feel like he's like too busy. He's like, I just want to make art, and whatever people think of it, they think of it, but I'm just going to keep making art. And I love that.
I know.
It's kind of like what we're doing.
Exactly.
This is art.
This is our punk thing.
This is our punk thing. But we do want to know what you think of it. So, like, leave a comment. Like, we won't care what you think of it, you know, a la Tomata.
Yes, exactly.
But we would like to hear. It's a curiosity, you know.
The curiosity of it all. Exactly.
The curiosity of it all.
So this is like just a live recording of what they did, just to give you a little idea of it. But he's saying it's not punk. It sounds pretty punk to me.
Okay.
Let's hear it. Okay.
Let's hear it. That's guitar.
Yeah.
It's pretty punk to me. And
it sounds punk to me. Yeah.
And you know what? The sound quality is not great, but it sounds like fun.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. You can see how it was like lighting people up, because like the way that they compared this time, and I have this quote below actually that's perfect, that they show this later in that video. This is from Art Chantry, who's a graphic designer. I don't know anything about him, but his quote is great about this. He said, Tomato came back from New York and formed a punk band called the Tupperwares. And they all wore leather jackets and had Brian Jones haircuts, you know, and they were all doing Iggy Pop covers. And for Seattle in the mid-70s, people were freaked out. Everybody was still listening to Journey and Kansas and local bands that had names like Cheyenne and Gabriel. I love that specificity. Local bands that had names like Cheyenne and Gabriel. Heart was huge, and like the band. And here's this guy coming back from New York acting the part of a punk rock dude. And everybody paid attention. Like they were ready for that. Like this city didn't have that yet. They were basically, everybody was like, music is just lame now. And then all of a sudden this comes through. So,
so cool.
Yeah. So although they were getting a lot of attention in Seattle, it was time to hit the road again. And this time it wasn't just restlessness. Even though the Tupperwares had made a big impression in Seattle, they weren't getting gigs easily because there simply weren't that many venues to play. This was like for the show I just talked about, they booked all of that. They did all of that themselves. Wow. Like they had to put the legwork up to even make that happen. Right. And right to the PA and everything.
Wow.
So like
so much work.
Exactly. And this was the 70s, and many live show venues had become, quote, discos that were all about one DJ and dancing, because it was like cheaper. It was a trend. It just kind of made sense for businesses at the time.
Disco clubs.
Yeah. So it was, and like live music was kind of in a like death spiral a little bit because of that. And this is probably why everyone hates disco, you know, or at least from that time period. So Melba Toast, who had now changed his moniker to Tommy Gear, total left turn.
Total switcheroo there.
Yeah. He's like, I'm punk now. Fuck the drag. I'm punk now. So Melba Toast, who had now changed his name to moniker to Tommy Gear, had the idea to bounce after reviewing a magazine that showed what punk in England looked like. So they were kind of starting to imitate this, but he and Tomato looked at magazines of the Sex Pistols and their whole look. And Tommy said they should dress the part of the punk scene, fully embrace it, start a fresh new band, and head to Los Angeles to see if they could make it happen. So originally it was Rio de Janeiro, who is, you know, his real name was David Gulbranson. So Rio de Janeiro rolls off the tongue much more nicely. Yeah. The newly dubbed Tommy Gear. And Tomato DePlenty that headed down to make the band happen. So it was the three of them at first.
Okay.
So that's what they did.
They had stuck together for a while.
Yeah, like through various ventures and incarnations. I love it. It was like a marriage. They're like, let's just grow together. Let's grow and change.
Yeah, when you find people that you can artistically grow together, because there's many different phases of their artistic expression here, and they kind of all stuck together and did it together. That's really special, and I love that.
I think that it's just like, I think before they realized they were punks. They were just guys who were like, I am going to DIY my way into doing whatever the fuck I want.
Like Vampira. She was punk before.
Exactly. That's why he saw her. He looked and he saw her. It's so cute. So that's what they did. They showed up in LA. They looked cool and mysterious with that punk je ne sais quoi. And specifically, Tomata had spiked his hair and shaved off his sideburns entirely. Like that was his look, his iconic look. But upon arrival, the band members shuffled around. Rio de Janeiro left due to creative differences.
Oh, I just talked about how wonderful.
Well, they did. But they did. They still. I mean, that's still just traveling to multiple cities.
They wanted to branch out.
Yes. And I don't know if like Rio de Janeiro was. Don't know enough about this to know if Rio de Janeiro was the bass player that, like, in the interview, Tomato references that there was a bass player originally who was like, we should make this just an instrumental band. And he's like, wait, I'm the singer. What are you trying to say? But like that might have been the creative difference. I don't know.
That might have been it.
That might have been it. But after further shuffling, eventually he was replaced by Paul Roessler, who was the brother of Black Flag bassist Kira Roessler. So already they're kind of pulling in some more punk elements. And then after finding each other mutually alluring at a party, drummer KK Barrett was asked to join the band. KK was the only truly traditional punk instrument in the whole band, as the other members were playing an ARP Odyssey synthesizer, that was Tommy Gear, and a Fender Rhodes electric piano, Paul Roessler. So there were no guitars in this band.
No guitar
at all. So Tomato said,
we didn't have any guitars, and we met a guy at a party who was shoving people. This was in 76, and by that time, it was the Eagles music. People were so happy and loving, and to see somebody out at a party with that kind of behavior, we thought, we should start a band with this guy.
And that was KK?
Yeah, KK. He was this rowdy from Oklahoma who learned how to play drums from listening to Aretha Franklin's Chain of Fools. This was his all-time favorite song. I don't know how many times I've heard him drum to that. Anyway, we started playing, and by that time, we just didn't think we needed a guitar. It wasn't a political thing. It wasn't a thing that was inspired. Oddly enough, it just evolved.
Yeah. So
oddly enough, I feel like that's his whole thing. It just evolved, and whatever project I'm doing just evolved. I just evolved. Everything just evolved, and yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when people talk about being in a flow state, like this is what that is. You know what I mean? You're just like, I'm not judging. I'm just letting myself flow from one thing to another to let it speak, and I'm not going to get in my own way.
Right.
So they named the new iteration of the band the Screamers, largely due to Tomato DePlenty's singing style, which was actually just screaming. It truly was.
Maybe that's why Rio was like, maybe we should just do.
I think that's what he was saying. Because he was like
gently trying to be like, dude.
But I mean, and I don't even mean to say like that Tomato was offended by it. I think he kind of thought like he was doing everything for art's sake. I don't think like he had a personal ego about his own talent or anything like that.
I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah. It's no. I don't think you are even. It's just like to clarify because I think he like thought it was I think he thought it was funny, but he even describes himself. He's like, I'm not like in this interview. He's like, I'm not a musician. I'm just the jerk at the front. Like that's how he described himself.
Wow.
In this band. And it's like that's not the way anyone thinks about this, but himself.
No, that's so fun.
Yeah. And the Screamers were actually like a hit nearly immediately after settling in Los Angeles. And this could have been for a couple different reasons. Maybe it was due to their legendary, magical, and very punk rock living situation. They lived in a large house known as the Wilton Hilton that still stands today.
Wait, I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
The Wilton Hilton.
The Wilton Hilton. So
I've heard of this.
Yeah, this house has all kinds of legend and lore around it. I think it's like a B&B now or something like that. Or maybe, I can't tell, something like that. But Tomata said that William Randolph Hearst had bought it for his lover, Marion Davies. But that is an unsubstantiated claim. There's like no evidence that that's true. That's just maybe a tall tale he told people. What is true is that the 60s girl group GTO, Girl Together Outrageously, which included groupie musician turned writer Pamela DeBar, who we have discussed before in our Christopher Jones episodes, lived there. So she's the one who like grilled him, like really remember interviewed. So she was a band member of this band. Many claim that the house is extremely haunted, and one of GTO's members, Miss Christine, who died of a barbiturate overdose, is said to still hang around the house in the afterlife.
Whoa.
From what I looked up, she didn't even die in the house, so I don't know if that's true. But I mean, like, people say ghosts work in different ways. I don't know. But when the Screamers lived there, they leaned into the spooky and covered many of the rooms with black plastic, which is both creepy and easier to clean. I don't know if they thought about that at all, but that may have come in handy after all the rowdy parties that were held there while they lived there. At this point in time, Tomata specifically had been around and had dipped his toe into many different weirdo and almost famous pools of people. So their parties were filled with names. Blondie was there. Devo hung around. Punk bands like the Weirdos and the Germs came by because they were kind of coming up at the same time as them. It was very raucous. So they became big in LA very quickly. And some say they were able to start...
like a really cool party house.
They had a really cool party house.
And like no ego, and like everyone was, was welcome, it seems.
And they looked cool. People would like see them and just be like, who are those guys? Like they were like, because I think like it's important to stress that the punk scene...
if you guys can hear the...
Yeah, if there's any sirens, it's because of
sirens. New York. Okay, sorry.
New York City. They became big in LA very quickly. Some say they were able to start buzz because their friends designed posters for non-existent shows and put them up all over town, which is kind of a brilliant marketing strategy, to be honest, at the time.
So funny.
And in fact, Gary Panter was an artist who created a logo based on Tomata screaming with his spiky hair that is still one of the most recognizable pieces of art of Los Angeles punk rock history. So
cool.
It's a really, really cool image. Yeah, let me show you. Okay. So this is just like a few examples of it, but that's what it looked like.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen this before?
Yes.
Yes. It's like still popular today.
Yeah.
And
so that's really cool.
That's supposed to be Tomato DePlenty, like right there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. But once the band had started performing, they developed a very loyal following. They were truly ahead of their time, and synthesizer-based punk was not going to be seen in a big way again until the 90s, really.
Whoa, way ahead of their time.
Yeah. There were also bands like the Dead Kennedys who directly copied Tomata's theatrical performance style. And funny enough, the Screamers never actually recorded in a studio, ever. So any audio of them is either a homemade demo, which they did do in the Wilton Hilton, a live performance, or audio ripped from the videos they made, because they were so ahead of their time that they prioritized making videos and using them in their performances in the late 70s, when most people were hardly familiar with the idea of a VHS tape. There was no it was like definitely way ahead. There was no MTV yet, but they had their finger on the pulse. And this is the sound they achieved. So this video that I'm going to show is actually like, oh, hold on a minute. Okay. I'm going to share it with you. This, I'm going to skip around in it a little bit, but this is from the Target Studios promo videos that they made. So
Target the store?
No, it was again, ahead of Target the store.
Oh, I was like, wait, what?
Right. So this is like, I'm just going to skip to this, like starts with this little helicopter thing. Jesse, by the way, was very impressed with the way that like this video was done for the time.
And Jesse edits music videos all day. Personally.
Yeah. And then his head is like slowly coming into focus from the back.
Yeah, there's a helicopter, and now.
And then I'm just going to skip ahead here a little bit.
This spiky hair.
Big white or big girls.
The Screamers is right. Oh, but the synthesizer sounds really cool, actually.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
That's so cool.
And it's like just watching him perform, he's got like, he's super theatrical. Like you can tell he's a theater guy. And then like, so I'm trying to get like one of the full body shots over here in this video, because this is just like a smattering of the promo videos that they did. But that's from 122 Hours of Fear, which is one of their songs. And let me try to, there's like one in particular bit I want to get to here. So like you can kind of see, I'm just skipping through this a little bit. You can see some of his fashion, like his punk choices here too. He's got like pinstriped shirts on and like little bow ties and suspenders.
Has he met Vampira at this time?
No, this is like in his prime. So this is like
before.
Late 70s, very early 80s. Like the Screamers were only around for like 4 years.
Oh my God, 4 wonderful years.
Yeah.
Like your best years in college.
Oh yeah, so this song is awesome. This is called Vertigo.
He looks so cool.
He's like very Mick Jagger in a lot of ways.
I could see that, yeah. Magnetic camera.
He's just like actually like going all the way down to the ground right now.
Yeah. He's dancing and acting everything out. Gosh, this is amazing.
It's like true, like just jumping around, like full bliss.
He's like tap dancing, stomping.
I know. He's like,
Irish dancing, but also acting out every single word and movement. It's so great.
And then this is the part I want to show you, because this came out of like a live, this is from the first song you're listening to. This came out of a live performance where he was doing something dramatic and somebody like in the pause said, "You suck." And then he like came up with this moment basically and like part of the song. So he's like fallen to the ground. He's on a knee. Everything stopped. He's just like collapsed by the microphone stand.
You better shut up and listen.
You better shut up
So
and listen.
that moment came totally organically from somebody being like, "You suck." And he's like, "You better shut up
and listen.
And then it just looks so good. So
well, on that note,
yes, we're gonna come back to the later years, and then how like we'll dive into a little bit, because I'm just gonna say this now as a little teaser for next week, because this is we're kind of like leaving on this episode at the height of the Screamers, but there's there's a project that I didn't know about that he did with Vampira that
oh my God.
I watched. And so we'll dig into that. So
I'm so excited.
We'll get a little bit of a revisit.
That's so fun. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, but this is really fun, right?
This is so fun.
He's like super, super rad. I'm honestly like impressed. He's like a phoenix that keeps rising from not even ashes,
he just keeps evolving. I love this.
He's like
guy.
a flower that's growing out of a flower over and over again. Again, another plant.
Yes.
He's
All
just a
the
little
plant
tomato flower.
references. I love
Yeah.
Tomata. I love tomato Tomata.
Little tomato. I know. How many times did he hear that tired old joke, by the way? Tomato. If you liked what you heard, or if you have any feedback for us at all, the good, the bad, the ugly, the dead, the alive, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and let us know what you think. We really want to hear from you. Also, follow the show, please. Definitely subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts. But write us a review. Tell us what you're thinking.
Dead and Kind of Famous is written, researched, and produced by Courtney Blomquist. It is co-hosted by Marissa Rivera. We tag team on socials. Jesse Russell and Courtney Blomquist do our editing.
Until next time, you might not be famous, but you got a story to tell and you're not dead yet.
Okay, bye.
Bye.